Hey everybody, welcome to Groove Don't Lie, the podcast, where rhythm tells the real story. I'm your host, Gerry Brown, and today we're diving deep into the heartbeat of percussion, the people, the passion, and the pulse that keeps the world moving. Now, if you've ever felt that spark when a groove locks in, that moment when music becomes more than sound, you're in the right place, because here, we don't just talk about rhythm, we live it. And to kick things off, we've got a true master of the craft, Mr. Ron Powell. You've heard him with everyone from Madonna to Sergio Mendes to Diana Ross. And today he's sharing his story, his philosophy, and what groove really means to him. So grab your sticks, your shakers, or just your curiosity, and let's get into it. So ladies and gentlemen, cats and kitties, you probably don't know this, but this man, he and I, this is FYI for your information. This man and I, we grew up in the same city, blocks from each other, went to the same schools, same churches, but didn't know each other until afterwards.
Right.
Now, ain't that something?
It's big time.
That's that things, shit happens, man.
Yep.
So anyway, this if you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, now you're gonna know. I'm gonna read the list. I'm sorry I don't have my snare drum here. I should actually do a roll when I do this stuff. But anyway, tours. This is Mr. Ron Powell. Tours: Kenny G, Madonna, Sergio Mendes, Diana Ross, Ricky Lee Jones, Sheena Easton, Barry White, Diana Reeves, Blue Magic, Tanya Maria, Philip Bailey, Jesse J, Donny Osmond, The Supremes, Freddie Revelle, Michael Sembello, Al Jarreau, Eric Marienthal, Cirque du Soleil, Nancy Wilson, Memphis Jazz Orchestra, Cusitos Afro-Cuban Folkloric Group, TV, Black Eyed Peas, Mariah Carey, Earth, Wind and Fire, Justin Timberlake, Ricky Martin, Josh Groban, Gloria Stefan, Annie Lennox, Oscar De La Hoya. Man, what are you doing, man? You sparring
He was a singer for a minute.
Donna Summers, Lou Rawls, Patti LaBelle, Faith Hill. Guest appearances: Santana, Stevie, Herbie Hancock, George Duke, George Benson, Lee Ritenour, Boyz II Men, Patty Austin, Pancho Sanchez, Jeffrey Osborne, Peebo Bryson, The Commodores, Michael Bolton, CDs, Etta James, Diana Ross, Kenny G, Claire Fisher, TV.
It just rolls on. It just continues.
Lastly, TV. Tonight Show with Jay Leno and Johnny Carson, 20 times. Late Show with David Letterman. American Music Awards, 5 times. Grammy Awards, 5 times.
Okay, I've been busy.
The man has been busy. This man knows about groove. So let's talk about groove, Ron. What in your opinion, needs to be talked about, addressed, coming from a grand maestro, Ron Powell?
Okay. I want to say I'm happy to be here on your podcast. Thank you, Mr. Gerry Brown. Okay. I've gotten in a habit of like whenever I meet famous drummers and I get luckily in this business I get to meet all my heroes and all the drummers that I grew up listening to, including you. And for people who I really respect, I ask them one question: what is groove? And I do that out of seriously wanting, because I'm a serious student of drumming, and because I seriously want to know from the groove masters what groove is. It's amazing how many people don't have an answer. Okay, and I get astonished at that. Okay, but what makes me happier is when I get an answer. So I've got to tell you one situation. I was at a Steve Gadd clinic, which just happened to be in my neighborhood in the IE in Southern California. And so a lot of people at this clinic were my students and my peers, and friends of mine. Watched Gadd give a wonderful clinic, and then he did a question and answer at the end. And people are asking him questions like, how did you play with two sticks in your hand? And things that, in my opinion, were kind of like, he held two sticks, okay. So I just happened to be sitting right in the middle of the audience. I stood up. As I stood up, it was like a murmur in the whole crowd, in the whole audience. Everybody was like, oh, because the guys who know me know that I'm passionate and serious about drumming. So I looked Gadd in the eye and I said, what is groove? Now, I could tell that Gadd thought I was trying to be funny or trying to be disruptive. So sometimes I have a overwhelming demeanor sometimes. So I tried to calm down my presence, and I said, okay, no, I'm serious. You're the groove master. What is groove? You could tell he thought about it. To me, it seemed like it was an hour, but it was probably 10 seconds. And he goes, groove is the thing that makes you move. All right, thank you, everybody. And he walked off. Clinic was over. Okay. Everybody in the audience looks at me like, Ron, man, you messed it up for everybody. Okay. But I was actually really happy when I thought about what he said. Okay. Steve Gadd's answer to what is groove is the thing that makes you move. To me, that was deep. Okay. And I've heard a lot of different explanations, but to me, that one settled in the most because it's not talking about specifically 2 and 4 or 1 and 3 or clave. It's like what I heard was whatever your culture, in all the different cultures, there are certain things that make you move, that make you feel the music. And so he didn't just spell out one of it, he actually spelled it out for everybody. It's the thing that makes you move. Okay, so the groove is important. If you ask a bunch of drummers, what's the most important thing about drumming? Is it how fast you can play? Everybody will say no, even though half of the guys will try to be the fastest. You can ask a bunch of drummers, are your chops the most important thing? And everybody will say no, even though they'll try to out chop you. But everybody will agree that the groove is the most important thing. And in saying that it's the most important thing, then I think that we need to understand what the groove is. Okay.
I totally agree with your point. I agree with the side things about, God said, no, it's not about chops,
But they do work, but they do
but
help.
but that's that, but that's what they're doing. Um, every culture has a groove.
Right, right.
Every music, and that's also what groove don't lie, meaning if it's another culture, another musical culture that's being played, and you're trying to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now if you're able to fit in, everybody may be amazed. But then if you don't fit in,
Right,
you're gonna get
right,
the side eyes, like
right, right.
you know. So that was a good answer.
Cool.
That was a good answer. Yeah, and but absolutely, I find it very funny that so many other drummers talk, say, yeah, yeah, well, no, it's not all about shops and stuff like that. It's like so, you almost want to see them play, and it's like, so what's the problem?
Right.
What's some? Yeah, you're saying that, but you're doing something else,
Yeah.
and then and if they would say, well, this is the competition this is the arena that I'm living in right now.
Hmm.
And I can understand that, but I think hopefully, or I'm hopeful that they are able to wear more hats and listen to other people and at least attempt to get to that groove.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to uh, playing percussion, I have a lot of experiences with changing cultures within the music. Okay. Like you said, I'm from Philly. And uh, for a long time, I forgot that. Okay. I'm from Philly, but I moved to California. And well, even before I moved from California, I started hanging in North Philly because that's where the Puerto Ricans were. Okay. And and I was young, so of course I was there for the girls when I was young, but I love the music. Okay. So even back then, even before I really became a professional player, I tried to fit into the culture, the Puerto Rican society, in order to play their music. And the best
Very
way,
smart, very
yeah,
smart.
and the best way that I could play their music was understanding the culture. And then once I moved to California, uh, pretty soon after that, I got with Sergio Mendes, and he took me to Brazil and told the guys there, teach him how to play like us. And so I studied the culture, even though I was technically studying the instruments also, more so I was studying the culture. And the same thing, and one of the great things about this industry is I get to travel a lot. And so I've been to Africa many times to study the culture. And then when I play in different bands that play different styles of music, I don't try to think, oh, this pattern versus that pattern. When we change music styles, I try to think this culture. I think about the different cultures. I think about my experiences. Like if I play Brazilian music, I start thinking about Ipanema Beach. I'm thinking about samba dancing. And that's what allows me to play Brazilian music, not the fact that I know technically what the pattern is. See what I'm saying?
It's not so much, it's not as much as some people would think that it's the pattern, but because you've delved in it in a different way, it's culture, but culture equals vocabulary.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, I like
So
that.
so 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 if you got a sense of the vocabulary, you are
Right.
very much,
Right.
bring him in. Bring
Right.
he's he's not from here, but he's showing all these signs that he has embraced what we're about.
Now, one thing that I've had this happen so many times, but usually, right to what you say right now, it'll tie in once I get to the end. Often people don't know that where in my case, that I'm not of that culture. One example of what I mean right now is there was a time when a period when I was with Sergio Mendes, and I was the only dark skinned guy in the band. All the other guys were Brazilian, but I was the only dark skinned guy. I'm the only black guy. Okay. We did a concert in Rio, and then we were flying to Sao Paulo to do another concert. And on the plane, the flight attendant, this woman, she, she had been she was at the concert the night before. And so we're sitting up at first class. She's, giving us champagne, talking to us all about how great the concert was, all in Portuguese. Yeah, my Portuguese was good enough that I could hang on that level of introductions, and you're great, you're a great show and all that. And so at that point, she just assumed that everybody, including me, was Brazilian. But especially because I'm the dark skinned guy, everybody assumed that he's definitely the Brazilian guy. Halfway through the flight, she came over, she sat down, and she starts talking to me in Portuguese. So I tell her in Portuguese, hey, nice talking to you, but could we speak in English? Because my Portuguese isn't that good. She looked at me and got mad, and then started saying to me, don't be ashamed of being Brazilian and stop pretending to be an American.
Oh, well, that's different.
Right. And I'm like, no, for real, really, I'm American. I'm not trying not to pretend I am. And she didn't believe me. We never resolved it. She just didn't believe it. She left mad. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. And so I've had so many times where I've come off stage and some Brazilian would come up to me and hug me and start speaking Portuguese. And at that point, they're totally convinced I'm them. But then when I open my mouth and start speaking English, my name is Ron, I'm from Philly. It's like, that's the giveaway. And that's when they go, oh, okay. I'm literally hundreds of times over all these decades. So that kind of tells me that as long as I don't talk, I'm cool. But the situation happens so often that I feel like I must have done something right because they believed it all the way up until they talked to me. See what I'm saying?
you know what? That would be I don't know if you can make this into a film, but anyway, I could imagine a moment, or maybe this may happen in the not too distant future, where it's like people who are not don't show their color. What they may be presented to be in music in something, and you may get them to do like a DNA test. Because
Right,
you
right.
know, they're ironic that there have been so many things I've seen talking about mitochondrial Eve,
Okay,
that the mother of us all
right,
came from Africa,
right.
and everybody else is based off of that. Even those who are very fair, let's just say fair skinned. Okay, let's just say that.
Yeah.
So, you may want, you could have there could be like a groove DNA test.
That could be that. Yes, yes, that's very interesting. Great concept. Now that it works both ways though, because since we are all related DNA wise,
Yeah,
did that could also say we all have groove. We
to
all
one
have,
degree or another.
yeah,
Yes,
right.
yeah,
I mean, some
yes.
of us might have 1 degree, some of us might have 90%, but we should all have inherent groove in us because of our DNA. Another way of looking at it.
And yes, that's true. And like, why is it that, you could probably take Diana Ross or any of the people that you and I have worked with and go to some maybe remote place on the planet
Uh-huh.
and play that music, and they may not be able to understand, probably can't understand the words. They may not understand the music, but all of a sudden
If
something
they
gets,
start moving, yeah.
something
Maybe
starts
that
moving.
DNA explains why they hear that then.
There you go.
Could be, could be.
It could be. I maybe with the different governments, there should be like really groove ambassadors, world groove ambassadors.
Well, that we are anyway. You know.
I mean, we are, but but it would be nice to have kind of like an official title,
Right,
you know,
right, right, right.
you know,
Actually,
cats.
you know what? I was just in Brazil recently, uh, and one of the, no, I would say the premier musical percussion instrument companies in Brazil is a company called Contemporânea, and I was only there for 2 days in São Paulo, so we didn't have a chance to get together. But I needed some more panderos for those guys, and so I just had my wife call and put it in order. Ron needs to have these panderos. Please ship them to the hotel. You can come to the show, all that. But I'm in and out, and so I get when I get there right before the show, I get the package. I got a whole bunch of panderos and instruments, and I called the guy, the president of the company, Roberto. Man, so how much do I owe you? And he said, "You're an ambassador." And he used the word groove ambassador. He said, "But you're an ambassador of Pandero and our style of music culture, and so I'm not going to charge you for these things because you're out there spreading our stuff to the world, which you have been for decades."
Yep.
The thing that you just said, you know, and so I was very proud to have him say that to me. You know, very nice to get free instruments.
Nice,
But
nice.
yeah, the
That
underlying
acknowledgement,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. So having that acknowledgement is really great, and to know that the guys who make that stuff there think of me that way. So that was a real honor. You know.
Okay, so I do have a okay, so this question, speaking about the influences of different cultures
Mhm.
in your playing and who who you've worked with. w- I'm assuming Sergio Mendes was very much a catalyst in you
Yeah,
learning of the Brazilian culture.
yeah.
What other percussionists or other instrumentalists put you in this put you in the position
Okay,
to have this art,
okay,
this text, this that texture of music to come into your life, and that you had you thinking about, thinking about, I'm just a kid from Philadelphia and I'm in this situation.
hmm,
And this is a absolute, this is again vocabulary.
yeah.
This is
Okay,
culture.
all right. So there's a big circle there. Being a teenager, listening to the radio in Philly,
You
and
mean like Blue Magic and stuff on WDAS FM?
well, before I started playing with Blue Magic and stuff, just listening to WDAS and WHAT,
Yes.
so just listening to the radio and hearing a few different styles of music, but then also being at a time period when the whole hippie thing was still happening, going to Belmont Plateau,
Yay.
and experiencing rock music while listening to the sound of Philly, while listening to different styles of music. Uh, all this different music was going on, and I'm a young musician trying to absorb it. I'm listening to the radio. I'm listening to Santana and Isaac Hayes and Iron Butterfly and Aretha Franklin. All that's going on. Then I met Kenny Hudson. I'm still in high school, okay? And I meet this other percussionist, Kenny Hudson, in my art class. And I was kind of a knucklehead. So there's this guy at the end of the table, hitting on the table, and me being a knucklehead. I looked at it, I said to him, "Stop doing that. I'm a real conga player, and I don't want to hear you doing that." He looks at me, and of course, I'm setting it up to fight. And he goes, "You really are?" He goes, "I have a band." I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, and we have a rehearsal. We need a conga player right after school. You want to come?" So now all of a sudden my gang fighting mentality is all gone. And I'm like, "You have a band?" So I went to Kenny Hudson's house, started playing with his band. He had a Santana tribute band.
Okay.
Yeah. And so,
Wow.
yeah. So now I played his band, and then he goes, "We have a gig on Friday night." Really? He picks me up, take on Friday, he picks me up, takes me to the we played at a bar on 52nd in Girard, I forget the name of the club. I was actually too young to be in there, but we did the set. Afterwards, I'm like astonished that I actually played a gig, go home. And then the next morning, I went somewhere and I come back, and my mother is like standing in the living room. She goes, "What is this?" I go, "What is what?" And she holds up a wad of money. You're rolled up with a rubber band around it. She goes, "That Kenny Hudson boy brought this money over here. Are you guys doing anything illegal or wrong?" So I jump on the phone, the real phone, back then. I'm like, right. And I'm like, "Kenny, what is this?" He goes, "That's your pay. You did a gig last night." The first time I had ever gotten paid for a gig. I was like, "We got paid?" He's like, "You dummy." Yeah, that's what we do this for. So so here I am now in a real working band. Kenny Hudson's working band. And he's allowing, and we're kids, but still we're experimenting. And so now I'm dropping in all these other sounds that I heard. And Kenny actually said, "Hey man, have you ever heard of this Brazilian stuff?" And so so he introduced me to it. And then I started listening to other people. Then I discovered Ayrton, you know, and Flor Perim and that whole other side. Okay.
Hermeto, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So time goes on. I keep experimenting. We both grew musically, and then finally I end up in LA, and a whole another long story. But I end up getting in Sergio Mendes' band. Okay, technically I know how to play this stuff, but that's why Sergio said, "Let's go to Brazil." And when we got to Brazil, like I said, he said to the guys, the main guys, "Teach him how to play like us." In other words, absorb our culture and how to make it feel the way we make it feel. So I did all that with all the Brazilian stuff, but I had similar experiences with the whole Latin scene, with the African scene. All that to say that once I got to a certain level in all of those things, I realized again, I'm from Philly and I'm not Brazilian. Okay, I'm not African. I'm not Latin. I had to get rid of all my nicknames that I had adopted along the way, trying to be from Brazil, trying to be from Puerto Rico and all that, and realize I'm from Philly. Philly has something in itself to offer. And so then I tried to understand, what is it that Black guys from our culture have? And then I realized we don't have a name for it. So I came up with the name Afro Marisol, African American Soul, Afro Marisol Percussion, which is a guy from Philly who absorbs world percussion and makes it into my thing. Okay, so it ends up being full circle. A little guy from Philly who goes out and explores the world just to come back to being a guy from Philly.
That's amazing. At the same time, you just happen to be in Philly, and whatever is in the water in Philly,
It's the cheesesteaks. It's the tasty cakes.
it's the tasty cakes and stuff like that, and Rita's water ice, and
Right.
cheesesteaks. That kind of stuff. But um, you know, I know some people may say boo, but we are divine beings and stuff, and there have been some of us that have been put in situations and that we have thrived in situations that, we were put we've been on this journey.
Uh-huh.
We've been on this groove journey.
Yeah.
All the days of listen to the Jimmy Bishop show
Right.
and Butterball and
Yep.
WHATFM and Sid Mark and Friday with Frank and stuff like that, and Tuesday with Ella. And so we've heard all that stuff. And then we got out of Philly.
Right. Yeah.
There are many that did not get out of Philly.
Yeah, I know. I know.
There are many that didn't even get out of their neighborhoods.
Right. Yeah.
And just the fact that that happened to us and that afforded us these situations. And because we played music and we were already absorbing the different vocabularies.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people saw in us, it's like, wow, these great musicians and stuff like that. And for Sergio to say, oh, he recognized that you were the real deal. Okay, let me facilitate him being more of a real deal.
Let me tell you this about Sergio Mendes. When I first got in his band, I auditioned. Luckily for me, I've done many auditions. And fortunately for me, I've never lost an audition. Okay, for one reason or another. But specifically to Sergio Mendes, he held auditions in Brazil and in New York and in LA. And when the smoke cleared, I was standing there. And so, of course, I'm feeling good about myself. And this was it was on my birthday, May 1st in 1978. Okay, so I'm at Sergio's house. We just finished the auditions. I see a couple of guys leaving, guys who I thought like Ray Armando was one of the guys who at the time he was like, you couldn't beat this guy. He could play all the Brazilian stuff. He could play all the Latin stuff. He spoke fluent Portuguese, fluent Spanish. And I'm like, there's no way I could get the gig over this guy. And I see him leaving, So Sergio comes to me and he tells me, okay, you got the gig, blah, 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 blah. We're talking. I'm feeling good about myself. And then he says, I'm not hiring you because you're the best guy. Okay. He says, I'm hiring you because you could play all this stuff, but I could tell by your attitude that I could mold you into the guy that I need.
Says everything, man.
Yeah.
That says everything.
Yeah. And of course I was like, mold me, But
that's that's it.
Yeah.
Being Sergio Mendes of his stature, for him to make that statement.
Yeah.
Man,
serious.
That's priceless.
Yeah.
Priceless, man.
And over the decades, the more I think about that, the more meaning it has, the more power it has, and it becomes even more like such an honor to have had that situation.
I want to thank Ron Powell for sharing his wisdom and his deep dive about his time with Sergio Mendes and what that meant to him. So that concludes episode number 1, but there's a second episode that's coming up with Ron. And we want to delve into looking back at some of the historic people that he's played with, amongst other things. So anyway, we thank Ron for episode number 1. Get ready for episode number 2. You know why? Because groove don't lie.